Hi guys, it's Joe Tommaso from the 15 Minutes With podcast. Our show is geared toward helping to keep not only teens but people in general out of our jails and prisons. Our show is unique in the fact that we use real inmates throughout the country and they explain not only about the cases that cause their incarceration, but why it's so important for people to stay out of prison and remain free. Speaking of free, have you heard about the newest and best way to put your podcast out there for the world to hear? Let me tell you about Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to produce and distribute your ideas, your podcast, and the best part, it's free. There's even a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will even distribute your podcast for you so people can hear it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many other listening platforms. You can even make money from your podcast, and there are no minimal amount of listeners required. Anchor is everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So what are you waiting for? Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm and get started.
Hey everybody, I'm so glad you could join me for this edition of 15 Minutes With. This is Joe Tommaso. We're going to be speaking to Jesse James Hollywood. Our last call was cut short due to not having enough money on the phone account. If you guys would like to help me fund these phone calls and help make the show better, please, by all means, donate to paypal.me/Joe Tommaso. That is paypal.me/JoeTomaso. Also, if you have any comments, suggestions, or if there's somebody you want me to try and interview, please, by all means, email me at insidetherazorwire@gmail.com. Again, that email is insidetherazorwire@gmail.com. Or you can snail mail me at P.O. Box 162, West Haven, Connecticut 06516. So in this edition, Jesse James is going to tell us how he is doing this show as well as other programs for the youth at risk in honor of Nick Markowitz's memory. So let's get on with it.
An inmate at the R.J. Donovan Correctional Facility, San Diego, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
Hello.
Jesse.
What up, Joe?
Okay, so...
You know what? All praise and glory to God. I appreciate you for giving me the opportunity. And definitely, everything I've been doing and everything I'm doing and everything we're doing here is not only for the kids, for the youth at risk out there, but definitely for the honor of Nick Markowitz. And, I think people, if they're on the internet blogs and stuff like that, they're quick to judge. And the Bible teaches us that we'll be judged at the same measure. It goes to John 8, I believe, in the Bible. It says, Jesus said, he who is without sin among you, let him throw the stone at her first, referring to the woman they caught in an act of adultery. And I think people have been quick to judge me for years, and it gets to the point where there's no opportunity for rehabilitation or second chance here, and that's a crime and punishment mentality. And I can understand that completely in certain cases, too, where they were the principal person who actually did the act. But I think my situation... and I'm not complaining and I'm not crying about the case. Mm-hmm. I mean, the facts of the case is they got the guy who did it on death row. And the Bible says an eye for an eye. I'm a Christian. I'm a believer, and I understand. I took responsibility for what happened with Nick since day one. And at my trial, I stand by my trial testimony. And I think people go without knowing the full facts of what's going on and tend to make quick judgments and hasty decisions.
Right. I mean, you and I have spoke before, and, we know that the individual that actually did the killing is on death row.
Correct.
The general public has this assumption that you actually ordered the killing of him, and we've spoke about this in the past. As a matter of fact, on a previous show, we spoke about this as well, and you explained what really happened. So I don't know if maybe you want to go into that again really quick and just explain to people what really happened.
I would love to get the juror number 3 to come on your show and speak to the mass about what she heard at trial and why they convicted me. And I think that would be something interesting, and how the felony murder rule works, and explain that to the masses. And I think that could be done. I mean, with a platform like you have, the juror, she came forward right away, recanted, and she was pretty clear. The only reason I got convicted was because of the felony murder rule, which was I admitted to kidnapping Nick and taking him to Santa Barbara. So I mean that was the key piece of evidence to the case.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
No one's really clear of that. I think the media initially they portrayed it as a murder and a kidnapping over a drug debt, which is incorrect. Mm-hmm. And then once they got the conviction, they continued to portray it as that. And the problem with that is when I get a story, if it's incorrect to begin with, and we keep repeating the same wrong story over and over and over, it doesn't make it correct if it was incorrect to begin with.
Right.
So, I mean, if people, to get the facts straight, they can go, it's public record, they can go and read the transcript, and they can see clearly that it was never proven, nor there was no evidence. The main evidence they had, everything they brought in there was quelled. The biggest evidence they had was a supposed solicitation by phone call from me to Santa Barbara to Jesse Ruge with the gravedigger himself, who's out there, who has a wine and cheese store in Santa Barbara right now. He was out there. He said that I called Ruge at his home in Santa Barbara and solicited the murder. Well, when we got to trial, we brought the DA investigator, Paul Kimes. This is all public record. These are facts. These are irrefutable facts. Mm-hmm. And I can show them to anybody who would care to listen. And I've done it for years, but the thing is, I'm not here to cry about the case or anything like that. I want to help people. And when I came to you, initially, I told you I wanted to bring other brothers that are dedicated to changing their lives into this for a reason.
Right.
That in itself shows, I mean, did I or did I not come to you and say, look, I don't want this to be about me. I want to bring other brothers and show that they're dedicated to changing and dedicated to being law-abiding citizens and out there to help others and to help the community and to help society as a whole.
Right.
Kingdom. So, I mean, that's what I've been dedicated to since day one as far as this endeavor here.
And that's what you've been doing. You've been telling people what it's like on the inside. I mean, I want to throw this out there too, because I've been on this with my guest all this past, week and a half now. I'm trying to make people, see that what they see, especially because California, you're in California, and one of the places that, that the show Lockup goes to is California. I need people to know that what you're seeing on TV right now, for Lockup and shows like that, that's not what the real thing is. It's not what prison is really about.
It's a watered-down situation. I'll tell you from my perspective, every individual is going to have a different. They're going to have a different experience. For me, when I came to prison, 2010. Wasco State Prison reception, filthy, dirty. I was in the hole because I'm a high notoriety inmate. They didn't want to put me on the main line because they feared that I would be killed and that I would be in dangerous situations. I told them, no, you need to put me on the main line. Because in my mind, in my false criminal identity, I still consider myself a criminal at that point. I still consider that part of my criminal career. This is in 2010. Right. They did kick me out at Wasco State Prison in reception into a building where there was about a half a dozen of us whites, which would be the normal whites would be Pecker Woods, in a northern building, which is a northern family, northern California gang members. There was about 80 of them, and we were at war at the time. So we were on lockdown, and what happened was, and I'm just giving my experience. Everybody's experience is different. There's other people they could have been put. They go directly into other situations. They came in and they tried to get me out of there a couple different times. I refused. Classification came. Do you know where you're at? We know who you are. You're high notoriety. Somebody's going to try to make a name for themselves. Well, I remained unscathed. Praise God. All by just God's grace, and I made it to Calipatria State Prison. Everybody told me when I was at Wasco, they said, "Oh, don't worry, the woods. There's nothing going on. It's just us against the cops." Yeah. When I got to Sea Yard orientation at Calipat, and everywhere we went, right out the gate, it was probably like a half a dozen of us. There's 80 Northerners. So when I got to Sea Yard in Calipat, it wasn't what people were saying at Wasco reception. They didn't know anything. Okay. Right. When I got there, it was me and probably maybe a half a dozen other whites, and maybe 30 to 40 of us total on the whole yard. Where there was 200 blacks, and there was 100 blacks and 100 some Mexicans each module. You got a 200-man thing, so I mean we were outnumbered heavily. We are the minority. Right. So the situation was like this. Well, the Southerners come in there. They have people that have knives. They have all these things. As a white, you're not going to have none of that. and you're on a level 4, there's metal detectors. So you're going to pretty much have to get a piece through a metal detector and out there to that yard with you and figure out how to do that and make it in that little amount of time you have from when you get off the bus in shower shoes to when them doors crack, or you could be hurt real bad. Or, either way. So you're in a very, very bad situation that I would not recommend to anybody, period. A very highly stressful situation, and a situation like this. When you're on these lower levels, level 1, level 2, it's like this. If the whites get into something, we'll jump, or the blacks, whatever. But when you get to level 4, it's like this. Here's a knife. Do a murder. Do an attempted murder. You're going to get a DA referral. Boom. So now you just caught another case that could give you 15 to life, whatever. I've seen dudes that Calipad in the hole, and they had a knife on them, and they were attacked, and they got DA referrals for attempted murders. So you're in a situation where you can be buried quickly forever in this if you want to be. And you're going to have to make that decision real quick. What's more important to you, your family, your wife, your kids, your life, or these people in here that turn out to be drug addicts at the end of the day, or just scumbags that do not care about anyone but themselves. So that's it in a nutshell as far as what the prison paradigm. And I explained it earlier. It's a paradigm set up to extort you for your usefulness, and you're either cast aside or you move up. Now, when you're fighting for your life and you start to realize it's a whole nother trip as far as your rehabilitation trip. Now, in 2017, I surrendered my life to the Lord. In 2018, I had a spiritual awakening, and I've been pushing hard for the last 3 years on a marathon pace of self-help and rehabilitation and victims awareness and pretty much just honor my life to my victims.
Well, that's the thing, too. Now, you've changed. Since 2017, you've changed. You've actually started dedicating your life to making sure that, people realize that you can change. You can make yourself better. You can get out of there in one piece and dedicate your life to helping others.
Me, I had a passion as a criminal at doing what I was doing, this false identity as a criminal. I had a passion to sell pounds of weed. I had a passion to have that the glory of having the low riders, the fancy cars, and trying to have girls and money and having the big sack of weed. And, that same passion, I'm taking that now, and we talked about transferable skills. We're down in the gutter here. We're down, washed up life sentences, but you got these men in here that have courage. They say that courage is the standing army of the soul that keeps it from conquest, pillage, and slavery. And when we're down, we got to get up. We got to get up, and we got to still have that courage and still have that passion and still take that passion we had as criminals and take it and use it for the good. And that's what we're trying to do here. That's what these men that have dedicated their lives to change, that's what they're doing. And, they say the best rose bush, after all, isn't the one with the fewest thorns, but the one that bears the finest roses. So as a Christian, I'm trying to bear these fruits of the Spirit, the positivity, the love, the compassion, to teach people of the long-suffering and self-control. And we have to have that. We have to make better decisions. And I'm trying to pass that on to the people out there, the kids out there that are getting in trouble, to understand that the Machiavellian mentality we have in here, that he who professes good among so many are evil is apt to be ruined. We got to get rid of that, keeping people at arm's length. I was heavily into the pothead when I was a kid. Now I'm total square, but I love Bob Marley's music and stuff, and I read about Bob and all the stuff he went through. I talked in our last conversation about Mike Tyson and his struggle and how he used his character defects to create the same thing that brought him down was the same thing that he was using to get explosive knockouts, and the same thing that he's doing now to tell a story. There's always a story, but there was an individual. For the kids, there was an individual, when I read about Bob Marley, there was an old vigilante in Jamaica named Joe Higgs, Rastaman Joe Higgs. And he had a saying. He said, life through grief for the foolish sufferer. He said the sufferer must put that retaliation thing behind himself, because that's a confrontation that only leads to death. And, that touched me. He says, wise men don't deal with petty gun fuss, and wise men put his energy into making a contribution to Jah's creation. For me, for the Rastafari, it's Jah's creation. For me, it's God, and it's my walk as a Christian. So that's what I'm trying to do now, and I really, everything I'm doing goes to Nick Markowitz and Susan Markowitz especially, because I know she's hurt with the loss of her son, and I hope they feel the love that I have in my heart, and I hope they forgive me.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
And I hope they know that everything we're doing here, this yard is a dark yard. There's a lot of bad stuff going on in this yard, and the individuals involved in this right here, trying to lift this yard up and shine some light on this facility and show that even in the midst of this darkness, there's individuals about change, and they're about changing this yard. They're not only about changing this yard, but they're about changing the community of San Diego, the state of California, all the way out there to Connecticut and the world. So I mean, and that's real. That's from the heart. And these individuals that I've talked to, that are going to be talking to you hopefully soon, they're in the same zone, and they want to do positive things. And it's not for ourselves. It's to honor our victims. It's to honor their families. It's to show that we can change. Of course, we want a second chance. We don't want. I mean, we're not going to. It gets to a point where it's about revenge and retaliation and crime and punishment. Of course, we feel frustrated, but in the same token, it doesn't mean we're not real. When we're sitting here, I know people can sit there and think it's like, oh, he said sorry, but what about the family? I understand that, but I mean, 20 years, that's a long time. That's 2 decades I've been doing this. There's some of these dudes in here, it took them 30 years, 3 decades, So
what would you tell kids?
60 seconds remaining.
What would you tell kids that are heading down the road that you went down? What would you tell them right now?
Anybody can thrive and flourish under good conditions with good, healthy relationships, open lines of communication, access to a healthy lifestyle, no financial worries. It's when we're down, when we lose the battles, that we build our character and determine who we really are. And diamonds are formed under pressure. You go to 2 Corinthians, cast down but unconquered. We're hard pressed on every side, yet not crushed. We're perplexed but not in despair, persecuted but not forsaken, struck down but not destroyed. We got to stay strong and still just take that victim mentality and be creators of solutions. Take the lemons in your life and make it into lemonade. Be victors, not victims.
Awesome. Jesse, thank you very much. This is ending right now. We're going to talk again.
Joe, I'm gonna have the brothers call tomorrow. I got a lot of good brothers.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to 15 Minutes With. I hope you've enjoyed this edition. If you have enjoyed this edition of 15 Minutes With, please hit the like and the subscribe button. You can also help me keep this show going and watch it get better by donating to paypal.me/Joe Tomaso. That address again is paypal.me/JoeTomaso. 15 Minutes With is constantly looking for new content to upload and new people to interview. If you would like to share your story, or if there's someone you would like to see us interview, please email us at insidetherazorwire@gmail.com. That email address again is insidetherazorwire@gmail.com. Last but not least, again, if you like to support this channel, please subscribe and hit the like button. Until next time, we'll be seeing you